Artificial Insemination by Donor, or AID, Ellen Anderson, November 11th, 2021. In broadening my research on the reproductive technique, artificial insemination by donor, or AID, I have come across 3 additional points of ethical relevance sourced from 4 scholarly sources below, encompassing gender preference selection, donor age restrictions, and donor compensation. My sources were an overview on ethical issues about sperm donation, the Asian Journal of Andrology, Gender Ratio, an online source published on ourworldindata.org, and Egg Donation Compensation, Ethical and Legal Challenges, Medico-Legal and Bioethics. Preferential gender selection. Certainly one cannot deny the prevalence of historical infanticide in societies with a social gender bias in favor of male children, that with the advent of assisted reproductive technologies have made gender selection, recently heavily Asia and North Africa, prior to or after conception through selective abortion, the new leading cause of missing women, 136 million as of 2015. That would be alive had they not been selectively aborted, neglected, or murdered in infancy. Ritchie et al. 2019 decry that 3.3 million women is the estimate for missing women in 2015, approximately half of which were missing births and half of which are attributed to excess female mortality. Specifically, until 1980, nearly all missing women were the result of excess female mortality. By 2015, as many were from the missing births, sex-selective abortions each year. Aside from the inherent disturbing nature of devaluing a person based on gender, the very real and unsettling implications of severe gender imbalance in a population, such as a large number of men being forced to delay or unable to marry, increased focus on women's value in traditional gender roles, precluding alternative routes through education or career, and increased trafficking and violence towards women, physical, emotional, or sexual. Thus, countries should compose their regulations on aid to eschew access to those prenatal sex selection or gender selective abortion as culturally necessary to avoid these clearly undesirable eventualities. Donor age restrictions. Indeed, it is an ethical necessity to limit the age window acceptable for anonymous sperm donation. Most current regulatory bodies have settled on minimum and maximum age requirements to protect autonomy and maintain non-maleficence. Gong et al. 2009 describes that while no person shall obtain any sperm or ovum from a donor under 18 years of age who lacks the ability to autonomously consent, therefore the donor shall be of legal age and ideally less than 40 years of age, because increased male age is associated with a progressive increase in the prevalence of aneuploid sperm. Though it is acceptable to harvest the gametes of minors in certain circumstances, for example, certain cancers wherein treatment produces infertility, for their own future utilization, it borders on maleficence to utilize donor sperm of men past the age of sperm prime that is increasingly abnormal with lowering genetic quality in aid treatments. Donor compensation. Lastly, must every donation of genetic material, oocyte or spermatozoa, that could result in allowing a barren couple to conceive a child be an act of supererogation, with no compensation beyond the satisfaction of a good act? Kinney et al. 2014 explains that the donation of sperm involves little physical risk or inconvenience but some potential psychological duress. Whereas, one can argue that failure to pay egg donors is disrespectful and devalues the significance of their physical contribution and the potential impact on their health, making women less likely to consider enduring the physical, emotional, and financial cost, such as from lost wages or transportation fees, to participate in the egg donation process. Considering there is very little clear data available on the long-term effects of ovarian stimulation and gamete harvesting on young women, and the evidence lack of willing donors without compensation, it is ethically critical to reimburse gamete donors in kind for their willingness to make contributions to ensure treatment opportunities exist for those experiencing infertility. Likewise, why should sperm donors for aid not be compensated for their relative offering? In conclusion, it is my belief that aid is an ethical and fiscally accessible option for those who desperately desire children but struggle with some component of fertility. Though as a medical donation of organic material required for life, situations may arise in which some vulnerable participant in the process, either donors, parents, or resulting child, may encounter exploitation, making thoughtful regulation and due consideration of all ethical components a necessity. Thank you.